Hello, everyone. It is I, Mr. Mark Adam, here for you. We're going to be talking with my partner in crime, Mr. Keith McKnight. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, how are you, sir? I'm good, thank you. How are you? Oh my goodness. We are connecting under some weird timing of circumstances with I believe, was it point 0.6 seconds left to go in the third period
It
of
was
this.
not good. Not good.
Oh,
Mis-
oh my goodness.
You were saying Mr. Maurice is going to let them have it in the dressing room today, hey?
I kind of think so. Excuse me, oh my gosh. I don't think I would want to take my equipment off in the locker room just as fast as everybody would want to. As you can see, I have my gloves on right now. But
Yeah, that was
what an
a disappointing
unfortunate.
finish.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Disappointing finish is what I'm trying to say. It was a little rough for
Oh,
the Jets there at the end.
couldn't believe it. They worked so hard that entire game, and the first period team that head coach Paul Maurice was talking about in the last game that he was impressed that they played against was that same first period team that came out in every single period tonight, or sorry, today. I'm sorry because it was a matinee game, and Brady Kachuk with the game-winning goal at 1951 in the left in the third period. Here we go.
That
Like the Kachucks just can't get out of Winnipeg. The Kachucks just can't get out of Winnipeg. They just can't. They just can't.
Yeah, it's a sad way to end a game that the Jets played very well in. As we discussed on our last episode of this show yesterday, we were talking about how the Jets need to play really well, even though the Senators have not been playing very well and have not looked like a good team. The Senators actually played quite well today, I thought.
They looked like a real NHL team, and I think that even though the fact that their former coach Guy Boucher has been fired, I think this is the way that their new head coach is. This is the what he was trying to create there. This is exactly what he was trying to cultivate there, and I hope they can ride this momentum. Just not against the Jets, against everybody else.
Well, exactly. You don't want to see the Jets getting thumped by anybody. But I gotta say the Jets played very well. That's probably Ottawa's best played game of the season.
Oh,
Am
I
I
would
am I
have to
wrong?
agree. I would have to agree. Like they held a really good hockey team on their home ice to one goal until the crucial moments, and they kept on grinding, and they didn't shy away from staying against this team, and they didn't bring in anything from the last game to this game. They just looked at it as something new, and they're like, look, like that's in the past. Let's move ahead here and let's get the show on the road. And that's exactly what they did.
They absolutely did. Let's have a quick look at the stats here for the. It was one goal for the Jets. Unfortunately, two for the Sens. Shots pretty even. 31-29 favor of the Jets. You got a 51% to 49% face-off percentage. That is so even. It was one power play opportunity apiece, 2 minutes of penalty time per team. That's a ridiculously low number. They did discuss it briefly on the Sportsnet feed, how there were so many by the end of the fourth, and the hits are Winnipeg 27. But you just have to think, what do the Jets need to do in order to beat a team like that? That was, that was it was the Senators' best game, but they definitely had that game in hand. They just could not buy a goal. All of a sudden, Hogland was on fire. What was the deal there?
Well, what I think is these teams that are coming in to play against the Jets, let it be like when they're coming into Bell MTS Place or when the Jets are going into another team's arena, I think a lot of these teams are seeing that the Jets are not a team to be taken lightly, and I think what happened was in their off day, let if the Ottawa Senators had a video session or more of an intense on ice practice, I don't know, but something must have clicked for them that they took this team a lot more seriously than anybody really is, and I don't think that you can count the Jets out from not being taken seriously. Like, you can't overlook this team. And as much as the Jets came in and didn't want to take it very seriously the last game until it was the second or third period, where, like you said, they ended up winning 5-1.
Absolutely.
Where they didn't take their boot off the gas here. And today, I think that the Ottawa Senators, they just took this team a lot more serious. And I think the Jets, because they're being taken more seriously, they need to just understand that and up their game that much more, because they're just that much respected now.
Well, I mean, they're top 2 in the division, right? Behind the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I don't know if today's loss changes anything that way. I doubt it. But what was really telling was the stat we didn't actually show in our little stat block there, but the blocked shots. The Senators had 23 blocked shots to the Jets 11. And considering the Jets still managed 31 shots on target, that's a big deal. That's a difference of 31 to 54 shots. That's a big difference when you're talking about numbers of shots blocked by Senator defensemen and forwards. So I think that really is the story of the game, is that the Senators plugged up the middle. They made it very difficult for the Jets to get anywhere near the net. And even though really it looked like the Jets were kind of dominating them at points, the Senators were able to block shots, get the puck away from their goaltender, give their goaltender a chance, only allowing the 31 shots, and off they go down the ice the other way. And then unfortunately, call it a bad bounce, call it what you want, but 8 seconds left in the game is a bad time to give up the go-ahead goal. So
yeah, like they say, it doesn't take very much for a goal to happen, and that's exactly what was exposed there today. You and I talked about this before we, while we were watching the game, looks like it might go to overtime, and then boom, 8 seconds left. Here we are.
Absolutely devastating. So rough. And I mean, I've played hockey. I've played a lot of other sports and things, and it's always tough when you lose a game by getting scored on at the last minute. I always hated that, where you were in the game right up to the absolute last moments, and then just one bad bounce away from being able to take it to overtime and maybe getting that win out of them. And you got to be feeling for the players in the dressing room. And I don't know how harsh Paul Maurice is going to be. You were saying he's going to let them have it in the dressing room, but I don't know how harsh you can be. They played a great, full, complete game. They just ran into problems with getting the puck at the net, and they still managed 31 shots. So it's, there's a lot of positives. That 50-50 on the face-off percentages. You can't sneeze at those numbers either. Yeah, they didn't win the face-off battle, but they didn't lose it either. It was a very even game on almost all fronts, aside from blocked shots. That's the one big statistical difference. More than doubling the blocked shots. I think that's the difference. That's the big one.
It really was the big difference, and like they always say, defense, really wins championships. I know tonight they didn't play, for anything other than the 2 points, which is just as important as anything at this point. And block shots is really what showed here. Really what showed, and yeah, I think I have to take that back. You saying that, how upset can you be with them? How can you be? They didn't do anything wrong all game. I think even though they won 5-1, I just think that tonight they played just as much of a dominant game as they did in the 5-1 victory. So yeah, if you are Coach Paul Maurice, it's you can't really. It was just a bounce. It was just a bounce that went Ottawa's way.
And you're you're hard pressed to find fault in a weird bouncing puck. You can't yell at any one person. It didn't look like blown coverage. It didn't, it's just one of those things that happens, and that's why they say put pucks at the net. You never know what's going to happen. Example right there, number one. So
Yeah, if you want to score, you have to go to the net, and those guys went to the net, and they put themselves in a position to score, and it went their way. And I'm just really, gosh, we talked about this in the last show, in the last game, that like watch the Jets pick up a penalty. They picked up a penalty. Then today, they pick up a goal. It's just, and it's not. There's nothing against. There's nobody made a mistake there.
it didn't
It's
look
just
like
a
it.
bounce that went Ottawa's way.
And those bounces are going to happen. And now for the Jets, the next step is to look forward to their next game, which happens to be Monday night in Edmonton. They're back on the road for 4 games. They're going to see Edmonton twice, Monday, Wednesday, and then Friday, Sunday, they're going to be playing the Canucks in Vancouver. So they're just going to be moving their way west before heading back here. They got 3 days off after those 2 games in Vancouver to come back here and get ready for Montreal, who has fallen off a little bit here. We talked them up a little bit over the last couple episodes, but they're falling apart a little bit in Quebec there. So what do the Jets need to do? Take from this game what's good that they can take into their next game against the Oilers in Edmonton.
Well, when they go up against Edmonton, I mean, regardless of whatever Edmonton produces, the 2 names that they need to be concerned about, of course, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. They have to be very, very, very concerned about those 2 individuals because no matter who the Edmonton Oilers play, those are 2 individuals that are going to be on the stat sheet no matter what. And that's just the way it's going to be. Even if, let's say, McDavid doesn't help, like, let's say, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins get a goal or Jujhar Khaira get a goal, it's just those 2 guys are going to be very involved with whatever production that team is going to have within the scoreboard. So the Jets need to take those 2 guys very, very seriously and understand that the defensive side of things are going to be what's going to count against Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. They should be very worried, right? Rightfully so. I don't want to say the word scared, but they need to take them just as seriously as anybody else is taking themselves. Because Kyle Connor is a threat just as much as anybody on the Edmonton Oilers are just a threat. And then when they work their way west, they're just going to be that much farther away from home. And we looked at their record. We've talked about this in our last couple shows. We've talked about this in the last couple pre-games, the articles leading up to the Winnipeg Jets games here, who they're playing. And they need to take these opponents very seriously, regardless of the fact that Vancouver is a team that's struggling right now. But these are teams that are really looking to win. And Vancouver is a team that's just as young as the Winnipeg Jets. So they're very evenly matched. And I really think that these two opponents that the Jets are going up against, they shouldn't be overlooked. And we talked about this in the first game when they took Edmonton. They didn't take Edmonton very seriously until the second or third period, and that's not the way that the Jets should come out against either of these opponents.
Well, that's not the way you want to come out against anybody, including these Ottawa Senators. They came out very flat-footed against the Senators the last time, I felt, and then they built themselves back up and ended up absolutely sort of thumping them by the end of it all. But I felt like they just didn't have that hop in their step out the gate. They had to find their footing as the game went on. And that seems to be the way that the Jets are all season. We saw that through the series with Calgary. Yes, it was 2 wins for Calgary, 2 wins for the Jets in that 4-game series. But you just, every first period seemed to just lag a little for the Jets. It was like they were just trying to survive till the second period, and then they would start playing. And that's not a way you want to play. But we've talked about it with the Jets before, how they really seem to like being behind the 8 ball. They like that come from behind win for whatever reason, and they keep doing it over and over to themselves. And you have to think at some point Maurice has to say, that's enough. Let's start the game the way we start the second period normally, so that we have all our ducks in a row after the warm up, instead of using the first period as extra warm-up time.
Oh, I agree. And one thing that you shared with me once we started covering more hockey is that there's a high advantage in scoring first. And I think that's what the Jets need to focus on. They need to score first. And hopefully, with these road games, they can build their confidence early on and take that first period very seriously and really put the puck in the back of the net early on, because that would put them in a position to not alone. I know what you're saying, because it shows that season after season they love having their backs against the wall.
It's so crazy, and it's funny because when they started this year, it was the first 5 games or something like that. They had scored within the first 5 minutes of each of those games. Was it 5 games or the first 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there? But they had scored within the first 5 minutes of each of those games, and that made a huge difference. And that's, I mean, when you're talking about a team that, Line was hurt after the first game, and now all of a sudden we don't have our star, but then they're just still winning games, and it all stems from those first couple of goals, getting them early in the game, getting some momentum underneath you, and then flying through the second and third with a little bit of momentum. It helps, instead of, the Jets sometimes have some momentum in the third because they've had such a good second period, but that was after recovering from a really rough first. So today, I think their first period shots on goal stats were 8-8, and then the Jets were even up in shots after the second period. The last time they played the Sens outshot the Jets by a large margin, and
It was a large margin, yes.
So you want to see them taking those shots, getting those shots, and between their 31 shots on goals and 23 blocked shots, you have to think that was their strategy, was let's put the puck in the net and see what happens against this team, especially against a goaltender who has not been very strong in Hoagland. He's not been very good, and it's unfortunate they just didn't get the result. So here we are.
Say that he hasn't been very good. This will really take a lot of the microscope off of him. He'd be like, oh, hey, he won. It's not a big deal. You know what? Like, forget about his mistakes. It's like, we got a goal. Like, they won't look at it as like this was a bounce that went their way. They'll just be a little bit, okay, we got a W, we got 2 points. Maybe our goaltender is, something we should look at. But realistically, they got a lucky bounce, and they're not the first team to get a lucky bounce, and they're not the last team to get a lucky bounce. And that's the way that it went for them. And, we talked about this earlier on, that how mad can head coach Paul Maurice be? And maybe he can't be. Maybe the players just have to. Maybe it's one of those things that they all just have to be like, all right, you know what, forget it. Like, who cares? Like, this is just one of those things. Like, it could have went either way, and they could have went. I don't know. I like what you said there, though. It's like, how mad can he be? Because it's like, now it's like, who can you blame? There's nobody to blame there. And I feel like the way you opened up my mind about that.
Well, and now I'm just looking at the stats over here. Toronto is sitting in first place in Scotia North, Montreal in second, Edmonton in third, and Winnipeg in fourth. But again, we've only played 14 games each. Edmonton is ahead of the Jets because they've played 16 games. They've got 2 games in hand. The Jets do over Edmonton. So these next 2 games that they play against Edmonton mean a lot as far as the position goes. So 8 wins for the Jets, 9 for the Edmonton Oilers. But again, 16 games played for the Oilers, were only 14 for the Jets. So the winning percentage is actually higher in Winnipeg, even though we're sitting behind them in the standings. It's a little irritating that way. But to the statistics.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to acknowledge the fact that this is probably why it's a good thing to look at 3 points.
Yes, to the point that we had last game or last episode we talked. I don't know if it was yesterday or if it was two episodes ago, but I had proposed the idea, and I know it's been looked at by the NHL before, of having 3 points a game, and this is a great argument for that. A win is a bigger deal, a loss is a bigger deal, and a tie is a big deal because you're giving away a point. Even if you win it in overtime, you're only getting the 2 points where you should have got 3, and your opponent gets to walk away with 1. I don't know. I really like the idea of the 3-point game always, not just when there's an overtime loss. Should there be, an overtime game is 3 points given away? Why not give 3 points to the winner if they win the game outright in regulation? I honestly believe that would make a lot more competition, a lot more important every game, winning, losing. It just makes everything bigger.
Well, when we talked about this the last game, it took a minute for me to process it, but now you got my wheels turning, and I understand where you're going with this. Winning is hard to do, and why not give somebody 3 points to get that W? And I don't know, I'm almost like empty in the stomach, like almost a little bit butterfly-ish effect here, because it's like, they work really, really, really hard. And why shouldn't you get 3 points for winning it outright in regulation?
Absolutely, and on top of that, you know, there's that incentive to win it in regulation, incentive to win it in the 60 minutes you're given. It's way more problematic to because what happens is a couple of 30 seconds left and you're tied. Nobody wants to do anything dangerous unless you're Ottawa today apparently, but nobody wants to do anything and commit forces and then possibly see the odd man rush go the other way and lose. So you get a lot of timid play towards the end of the third period in a tie game, which leads to that let's try and take it in overtime, especially when you have teams like Winnipeg who have a lot of very fast, strong skaters. Overtime, those 3-on-3 overtime situations tends to lean in your benefit when you have a squad as fast and quick and mobile as the Jets or the Leafs, for that matter. So certain teams have an advantage when you take away two players of each because there's so much extra ice, and you really want to have those games won in regulation time because that it just means better things for everyone. So I really think 3 points per game is the way to go, but I've been saying that for a long time and nobody seems to be on board with me. So maybe I'm just spewing stuff. I don't know.
Hey, you never know. You never know where that might take us. It might spark somebody's interest because, like you said, the incentive is there to put it away within the 60 minutes that you're given, and there's not that much timid play. It's like, why would you play second guessing? Why would you? I don't think any coaching staff, I don't think anybody who is going to make the roster that night is going to want to play timid. They want to just, try to just earn a W. And I just love what you said there because, in the last little bit, it's like there's that timid play. And maybe a timid play is why there was a goalie with 8 seconds left on the clock here in this game, right? Maybe there was just somebody who just wasn't sure about something. And they're like, oh, you know what? Just like, let's take it easy here. There's only like 15 seconds left. And then like, boom, Ottawa gets the puck. And then instead of something that nobody thought that would happen, happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The timidness is what I like where you're going with that, and I don't know. Hopefully we go somewhere with this.
Yeah. Here's hoping that somebody hears this and it's just another voice on the pile. And anyway, it is what it is. I think we've exhausted the discussion on today's game, and we look forward to their playing on Monday. We'll see another episode we'll record on Tuesday on Tuesday morning after the Jets play in Edmonton. I'm sorry. And what's really tough for fans in Winnipeg is that the earliest game for the next 5 games, the next 4 games are all going to be 8 o'clock or later. A lot of them, 3 of them, I think, are 9 o'clock starts. Just going to double check that real quick in the calendar here. Yeah, 8 o'clock on Monday, and then 9, 9, and 9 on Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. So late starts playing against those West Coast teams, and then we're back here where they get to play a 7 o'clocker, and then for some reason against Montreal, we're playing at a 9 o'clock start on Saturday. So must be the second leg of the doubleheader on Hockey Night in Canada. That said, we're gonna let you go. Thank you very much, Keith, for joining me here in the LZ Sports Show. This is the Landing Zone. And again, for those that don't know, Landing Zone, a nice nod to the Jets, Bombers, and Valor FC, all the military name teams here in town. So we're trying to pay a little bit of homage to them, and we're just fans of the game. If you want to talk with us, let us know. Hit us up in the comments. Head over to thewpg.ca/sports. That's the home of the Landing Zone, the LZ Sports Show. So for myself and Keith, thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.